a country long associated with war, famine, and suffering. Yet the headlines have never told the whole story. The very thing Yemen is best known for today has overshadowed nearly everything else that has shaped this remarkable land. A land so dry that water has always been more precious than gold, where life itself seems to have little chance of surviving. And yet, against all odds, this harsh landscape once gave rise to powerful kingdoms and became a vital crossroads of the ancient world's trade routes. Cities built entirely of earth still stand as high as 9 stories after centuries, off the coast of the Arabian Sea. An island quietly endures, where more than 30% of its plant species exist nowhere else on Earth. So what is the story of Yemen that the world has rarely had the chance to see? To answer that question, we have to travel back in time to an age before the first kingdoms ever emerged. Because the story of Yemen did not begin with war. It began with the very land that made Yemen possible. When a piece of land remains separated from the rest of the world for tens of millions of years, the life upon it no longer evolves according to familiar rules. Plants change their forms to retain water. Animals adapt to an isolated environment. And each generation of living organisms gradually shapes a world that cannot be found anywhere else. That place is so strange and untouched that it no longer seems to belong to Earth. Off the southern coast of the Arabian Peninsula, about 250 kilometers from mainland Yemen, there is such an island. As the Gulf of Aden widened because of the movement of tectonic plates, this piece of land gradually separated from the Arabian Peninsula and remained isolated for millions of years. The distance on the map is not especially great, but it was enough to prevent most mainland species from continuing to reach the island within that enclosed world. Life began evolving along its own path. The result of millions of years of isolation is Socotra. More than 1/3 of the plant species on this island exist nowhere else on Earth. This level of endemism ranks among the highest in the world for an island covering just over 3,600 square kilometers. This is why biologists often compare Socotra to a natural evolutionary laboratory, where branches of life that disappeared long ago from many other places are still preserved. No species demonstrates this evolutionary process more clearly than the dragon's blood tree. Its broad crown spread like enormous umbrellas across the limestone plateaus, making the island resemble an alien world, while the people of Socotra believe that the red resin flowing from its trunk is the blood of a dragon that fell in ancient times. Rain is extremely rare on Socotra's plateaus. To survive, The dragon's blood tree develops a broad, umbrella-shaped crown that captures moisture from layers of mist and channels it down toward its roots. This unusual form is the result of millions of years of adaptation to an arid environment. But Socotra is not only a story of evolution. Surrounding the island is a sea that has sustained human life for countless generations. On the western coast, Shawab Beach appears as a strip of white sand almost completely separated from the outside world. No road leads here. It can only be reached by boat along the towering cliffs of the Arabian Sea. This isolation has kept the surrounding waters almost untouched for generations. Every morning, fishermen still sail out to sea in the same way their ancestors did hundreds of years ago. They mend their nets by hand, recite prayers before leaving the shore, and regard dolphins appearing beside their boats as a sign of a favorable fishing journey. For them, the sea does not merely provide fish, it is also part of a belief system and a rhythm of life that existed long before Socotra became known to the world. If Socotra proves that nature can shape an entirely different world when isolated for long enough, then deep within Yemen's interior, those same harsh conditions produced something even more remarkable: the birth of one of the most powerful civilizations on the Arabian Peninsula. For more than 2,000 years, desert sand concealed one of the most sacred monuments of the Kingdom of Saba. Also known as the Temple of Bahrain, it was once one of the most important religious centers of the ancient Sabian civilization. Much of the temple no longer survives in its original form. It was not until archaeological excavations in the 20th century that the site gradually emerged from beneath the sand. Rising from the golden desert floor, 7 massive stone columns still stand as silent witnesses to a civilization long gone. For generations, local people have referred to this place as the Temple of the Queen of Sheba, according to legend. The legendary Queen of the Kingdom of Saba ruled this land before making her famous journey to meet King Solomon. Although no archaeological evidence has yet confirmed that she truly existed, the story has been passed down through countless generations and remains inseparable from the identity of the temple. For the Sabians, Mahram Bilqis was far more than a place for religious ceremonies. It served as the spiritual heart of the kingdom, dedicated to the moon god Al-Makka, who was believed to protect harvests, water supplies, and prosperity. Frankincense burned throughout sacred rituals, while priests observed the cycles of the moon to determine the proper time for important ceremonies. Ancient Sabaean inscriptions are still visible on the stone blocks, preserving traces of a civilization that flourished through the trade networks of frankincense and myrrh stretching across the Arabian Peninsula. That prosperity survives not only in legend, but also in every remaining column and weathered wall of the temple. For thousands of years, the desert kept this sanctuary hidden from the outside world. Every column uncovered and every inscription deciphered has added another piece to the story of the Kingdom of Saba. As the sun slowly sinks behind the desert, the towering columns cast long shadows across the sand, while the wind continues to drift through the ruins, just as it has for thousands of years. The legend of the Queen of Sheba may never be fully proven, but Mahram Bilqis stands as evidence that this harsh land once supported a civilization powerful enough for its legacy to endure to this day. Stone can preserve the memory of a civilization, but in Yemen, history was also written with something far more ordinary earth. Most ancient civilizations left behind structures made of stone. Stone withstands time, endures rain and wind, and can survive for thousands of years. Yemen, however, chose a completely different material. The people built their homes from earth. At first, clay appears incapable of resisting time. A single heavy rain can erode the walls after years without maintenance. They gradually crack and return to the ground. Yet from this fragile material, Yemen has built villages, cities, and even multi-story structures that have endured for hundreds of years. The hot, dry climate of the Hadramaut Valley hardens mud bricks after they are dried under the sun. Walls are built extremely thick to block daytime heat and retain warmth at night, while each generation continuously repairs them and applies new layers of mud to protect the structures from the weather. Instead of expanding across the ground, the people used the natural rock formation itself as a foundation. Earthen houses rise along the edge of the cliff, almost blending into the colors of the surrounding terrain. From a distance, it is difficult to tell where human construction ends and the mountain begins. Its significance does not lie merely in its precarious position. It proves that Earth can support more than a single house. It can sustain an entire community for centuries. But if Earth can create a village, can it also create an entire city? For centuries, Tarim was regarded as one of the most important centers of Islamic learning in the southern Arabian Peninsula. Hundreds of mosques and religious schools were established here, attracting scholars from many different regions. from Tarim. Many religious teachers carried Islam to East Africa, India, and Southeast Asia through trade routes across the Indian Ocean. What is remarkable is that even after becoming a center of religion and scholarship, most of Tarim's architecture continued to be built from the same type of mud brick used for centuries, instead of replacing traditional materials with stone. The people continued refining their building techniques to suit Hadramaut's hot, dry climate. Thick walls keep interiors cool during the day and warmer after nightfall, while layers of mud plaster are renewed regularly, allowing the structures to survive for generations. This is also why many of Tarim's old neighborhoods have retained an almost unchanged appearance. The architecture reflects not only the ability to adapt to nature, but also a civilization that preserved methods proven effective over time. If Earth could create a center of learning, then not far away, people pushed this building technique to a limit few had imagined. They began constructing multi-story towers entirely from Earth. As early as the 16th century, Shibam had already risen with hundreds of mud brick houses standing between 5 and 8 stories high, forming a skyline rarely seen anywhere else on the Arabian Peninsula. From a distance, the city resembles a cluster of towers rising from the desert, which is why it is often called the Manhattan of the desert. Yet these buildings were not constructed to display wealth. Farmland in the Hadramaut Valley was extremely limited, and the fertile areas had to be reserved for agriculture instead of expanding outward. Residents built upward to conserve space within the city walls. To accomplish this, Yemenists refined earthen construction techniques over many generations. The lower floors have thick, load-bearing walls. Higher floors use progressively thinner walls to reduce weight, while wooden beams bind the entire structure into a stable unit. Hadramaut's hot, dry climate also helps preserve the city. Limited rainfall reduces erosion of the earthen walls, but residents must still apply new layers of mud after every rainy season. This maintenance has continued for generations, allowing Shibam to remain standing and inhabited to this day. Yet Hadramaut's earthen architecture would eventually reach an even greater scale. Wealth from later trade routes paved the way for the largest earthen structure in the entire region. Built in the early 20th century, this multi-story palace is still regarded as one of the largest earthen buildings in the world, with thick walls, broad corridors, and hundreds of rooms. It once served as the administrative center of the sultans of Hadramaut. Despite its enormous scale, Seiyun Palace was built using traditional techniques that had existed for centuries. Sun-dried mud bricks, wooden beams, and earthen plaster continued to be used, proving that such a seemingly simple material could support monumental architecture when people understood the environment in which they lived. From villages perched on cliffs to centers of learning, high-rise cities, and palaces of the sultans, all were built from the same material. This was more than an architectural choice. It was the result of hundreds of years of adaptation to Hadramaut's climate, terrain, and natural resources. Nature determined how people built, and people transformed that adaptation into the identity of an entire civilization. Not every part of Yemen has broad valleys where cities can be built. In the western part of the country, the land suddenly rises into mountain ranges more than 3,000 meters high. The air becomes cooler, and rainfall is greater than in most of the Arabian Peninsula. But this comes with steep mountain slopes where every patch of level ground is extremely rare. To survive, people had to change. Instead of spreading across plains, they began building along the mountainsides. Stone terraces were arranged across the slopes to hold soil and retain water over centuries. Barren mountainsides gradually became chains of agricultural terraces capable of supporting millet, wheat, coffee, and many kinds of fruit. Villages also began to appear on those same slopes. The village almost merges with the cliff itself. Multi-story stone houses stand close to the mountain's edge, using every remaining patch of land from a distance. It is difficult to tell where human construction ends and the mountain begins. This position not only preserved farmland in the valley below, but also provided a natural defensive advantage for centuries. The narrow paths leading up to the village made access extremely difficult, helping protect residents from frequent conflicts across the Arabian Peninsula. Yet mountain villages depended on more than stone, they depended on water. The rainy season in the highlands lasts only a short time. Yemenis built terraces to slow the flow of water, allowing it to soak gradually into the soil instead of rushing down into the valley. This method transformed steep mountain slopes into unusually fertile farmland within a country that is largely arid. Farther into the mountain range, the combination of high elevation, mist, and greater rainfall created ideal conditions for a plant that once changed the history of Yemen's trade, Arabica coffee. The terraced slopes of Jabal Haraz have long been used to cultivate some of the most renowned Arabica coffee varieties. The cool climate, large temperature difference between day and night, and mineral-rich mountain soil produce a distinctive flavor that is difficult to reproduce elsewhere. From these mountains, coffee was transported to the port of Mocha and carried by ships across the Red Sea to the Middle East and Europe. Over time, the name of that port became a familiar term in global coffee culture. In Yemen, mountains determine more than where people live. They also shape local products, trade routes, and part of the history of the world. As mountains shaped daily life, the routes crossing them opened another role for Yemen. They connected the Red Sea with the interior of the Arabian Peninsula, carrying not only goods but also knowledge and faith. Not every legacy of Yemen was built from stone or earth. Some legacies cannot be seen. They were created by caravans crossing the desert, ships sailing across the Red Sea, and thousands of people carrying languages, beliefs, and knowledge from many different lands. For thousands of years, Yemen stood at the crossroads linking the Mediterranean, East Africa, the Indian Ocean, and the interior of the Arabian Peninsula. Spices, frankincense, coffee, and many other valuable goods continually pass through this land. But alongside those goods traveled scholars, merchants, and pilgrims. These encounters transformed many Yemeni cities into centers of learning. Founded in the 9th century on the coastal plain of the Red Sea, the city quickly prospered because of its location near major trade routes. The wealth generated through commerce made it possible for schools, libraries, and Islamic academies to emerge one after another for centuries. Zabid became a destination for scholars from across the Arabian Peninsula, East Africa, and many other parts of the Islamic world. At the heart of this intellectual life stood the great Mosque of Zabid. It was not only a place of worship, Islamic law, theology, language, and many other subjects were taught beneath its vaulted roofs. Across generations, knowledge continued to pass from teacher to student, making Zabid one of the most influential centers of education in the region. As knowledge spread, faith also followed those same routes to distant lands. Located in the Hadramaut Valley, this site has long been revered by Muslims as the resting place of the Prophet Hud, a figure mentioned in the Quran. Although no archaeological evidence has confirmed this tradition, the pilgrimage has continued for centuries. Every year, thousands of people from Yemen and many other countries still come here to pray, to turning a valley in the desert into a place that preserves the memory and faith of countless generations. For that reason, the ancient roots never connected only cities. They connected people through knowledge, faith, and traditions that continue to be preserved today. Yet the legacy of thousands of years of history exists not only along ancient routes or pilgrimage sites. It also lives within a city where historic houses, traditional markets, and the call to prayer continue to exist together, much as they did centuries ago. For more than 2,000 years, kingdoms rose and fell. Empires appeared one after another before disappearing. The trade routes that once created immense prosperity no longer hold the same importance. Yet Yemen still has another place, a city that has existed for millennia without ever losing its role. Situated on a high plateau at an elevation of more than 2,000 meters, the city developed very early thanks to a reliable water supply, a mild climate, and its position between the routes connecting the southern and northern Arabian Peninsula. That location also placed the city directly along the routes linking the south and north of the peninsula, bringing merchants, scholars, and pilgrims through its streets over many centuries. Sana'a became not only a place to live, but also a meeting point where people and cultures continuously came together. What makes the city remarkable is that it has continued to grow while preserving almost its entire original layout. Narrow streets, traditional markets, and thousands of multi-story mud brick houses are still in use much as they were hundreds of years ago. White gypsum windows reflect the sunlight. Geometric patterns cover the facades, and the ground floors continue serving as marketplaces just as they did centuries ago. In Sana'a, people still live in the homes built by their ancestors. The markets still open every day. The sound of metal being forged, the scent of spices, and the voices of bargaining continue to fill the old streets, making the city feel less like an open-air museum and more like a living part of everyday life. At the heart of the city stands the great mosque of Sana'a, built in the 7th century. It is one of the oldest surviving mosques in the world. More than a place of worship, the mosque became a center of scholarship where numerous ancient Islamic manuscripts were preserved and studied. The discovery of centuries-old manuscripts here has also helped scholars better understand the early history of the Quranic text. Yet the history of Sana'a is told not only through what has survived, it is also remembered through what has disappeared. In the 6th century, when the kingdom of Aksum controlled Yemen, Al-Khalis was built with the ambition of making Sana'a the pilgrimage center of the region. The structure was once renowned for its immense scale and magnificence, but it was later destroyed during historical upheavals. Today, very little remains. Yet the story of Al-Khalis still reveals that Yemen was once a place where civilizations and religions met, competed, and left their mark. That is also what makes Sana'a unique. The city preserves not the memory of a single era, but of many successive periods. From the ancient kingdoms and the incense route, to the Islamic era and modern Yemen, every stage has left its traces within the same living space. Perhaps that is why, despite war and countless upheavals, Sana'a continues to endure, not merely as an ancient city, but as a place where the history of Yemen still lives in every street, every house, and in the daily lives of its people. The earthen houses will continue to receive fresh layers of mud from the hands of their owners. The terraced fields will continue to preserve every precious stream of water after each rainy season. And off the coast of the Arabian Sea, the dragon's blood trees will continue to grow just as they have for millions of years. Yemen is not only the story of the present, it is a land shaped by nature, preserved by its people, and enriched by thousands of years of history. Thank you for joining this journey. See you again in the next adventure of discovery.